Good morning. Hope everyone's good. Everything's always better when the sun's shining. No technical difficulties this morning, so we can fly through some technicals and see what we've got going on for the day, where the momentum and potentials might be. US dollar across a couple of currency pairs looks as if they might present us with some opportunities. So that will be a good place for us to start this morning, I think. And then we'll visit into a couple of pound pairs. And I want to have a look at Aussie USD also. There is fundamentals today, though, to be mindful of. There is obviously a pound speech this morning. And then there is Bank of Canada rate decisions, which obviously it goes kind of without saying that's probably not going to change, but it does always bring with it the press conference, which causes major movements at all times. So a few things for us to keep an eye on, a few things to watch for. So we will fire through and see what we've got going on this morning. So Euro USD is where we want to start. We have seen obviously this week so far that break back above 120, and obviously led to a move into 120.80. So we rejected away from 120.80 yesterday morning. A little bit gutted that wasn't able to catch that. Like I say, technical difficulties meant that we missed that stream. We've started to come back down, and we've obviously broken through 2020 this morning. Now that's pretty big for this pair. I think the real test is going to come around 120 though. If we can get back below 120, I feel like this pair will easily find 1950. And if obviously we fail to hold the support there, then we're likely to come down a little bit further. Now, if we come to the 4 hours, obviously we can see that if anything, we were likely to come and push into this 120 region before seeing a further push back to the upside. So we need to have a clear set of guidelines, a clear plan in place for what happens in either eventuality, because if this fails to hold, a revisit of the lows and probably in actual fact a break back below the lows is likely to happen. Just come out on the daily and see what we're saying. Broke back above the previous daily high. I mean, the daily yesterday looks lovely for that drop to the downside. So what we're probably likely to see is either a push into 120 or 119.90, somewhere around that region, before seeing some support established and seeing that push to the upside. Let me just change that colour. Before seeing a push back to the upside as a potential there. That is certainly one way to look at it and one way to kind of see how this may react. This would be the ideal place to see a new higher low form before seeing that push up to 120, 150. Now, with this said, obviously the US dollar has taken a beating of late, but there is nothing to say for that to be a sustainable situation. I feel like that the second that we get a little bit of positive data coming out, I mean, that's probably not going to happen today, as there's nothing really that high impact pretty much for the whole week, to be honest. It's pretty Euro and CAD dominated for the rest of this week now. But as soon as we see some positivity come for the US dollar, I can imagine that we will see pretty sharp drops. So, like I say, below 120, likely to see 1950. And we see how that support holds. If that support fails, then we will head back down towards 1880. If we do test this support at 119.50, I would not expect it to hold. If we have dropped from 120.80 and we end up retesting this support at 1950, I would not be expecting that support to hold. but I would be more than comfortable taking a potential breakout position from it, break through, wait for that retest, and then see that push to the downside. I think that makes a whole world of sense. Either way, we need to see how we react at 120 first. If we see strong signs of sellers at 120, it might just be that we enter and take a position from there. It's certainly going to present ourselves with a potential opportunity from there. I just want to have a quick look at Swiss yen, just because I know that is trading around the lows at 1770. Yesterday, obviously, we saw yet another retest of 118.60, solidifying that area as our resistance zone. Failed to break through it, pushed back down, broke back below 1880, and obviously currently trading back around the lows. Anyone that was still involved in the short play from 1840 and has held your nerve, then fair play to you. If not, then the next opportunity to enter any potential short would be below 1770. Just want to run a quick crosshairs through there, so 65. So realistically, we're probably not going to get an entry until 65 goes, but there is no reason not to set a potential pending order at that area, looking to capitalize should that fall through. The yen hasn't exactly been on a resurgence, but it's certainly not the weakest currency that we saw a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, the US dollar has firmly replaced the yen as the weakest currency on the board at the moment. When we are looking though, getting below 65 would be the ideal scenario, the ideal situation, just because once we're below that 65 region, that gets us clear of this little consolidation zone. We would be much better served waiting for that to go than we would trying to gain an entry anywhere else. We are just still very range bound in this. The one thing that I'm not keen on is that this doesn't play in particularly well with another position that I want to look at. What did I want to look at? Euro Swiss. So we're looking at the moment for potential shorts in Euro Swiss. So it doesn't play in particularly well with that, but breaks back above 118 would likely lead to 1860 for Swiss yen longs. And then obviously if we can break through that consolidation, it's pretty much a no-brainer. When we look at this pair, this is a similar situation to the Euro CAD, or just all the CAD pairs, to be fair, that we had a couple of weeks back, where we were sat in consolidation, had this significant high, hit significant lows. Once this goes, will lead to a 100 pip position comfortably, which for the pair is a big deal because you're typically going to get away with 20 to 25 pip stop losses, and therefore your risk to reward on it is going to be pretty decent. I'm going to go back to Euro USD because that's where I feel like we're going to get an entry first. Dropped down quite a bit this morning, so we should definitely see how we respond and react. Euro Swiss 110. It's no, like I say, I've bleated on about this for a couple of days now. Below 110 should lead to a pretty big dropout. We are failing to get back below, but what we are seeing is this potential head and shoulders pattern that has formed. Also this inverted head and shoulders zone. So we have, sorry, I'm about to sneeze. Jesus. We have this potential, that's hay fever kicking in bright and early this morning. We have this potential area through here. I'm actually just going to box it, to be fair. So we have this potential zone through. I'm actually going to bring that down a little bit lower, where we've got you can see the two head and shoulders positions that we've got. So left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and that neckline being there for potential long positions up, or obviously shoulder, head, shoulder, neckline for those potential short positions. So should we get through 110, we have that added confluence of that head and shoulders position also being taken out. Also taken out quite a significant area of potential support that we have been using recently. Therefore, obviously, all the confluences are there for that potential short back down. 110 down to 1808.80 gives us a pretty decent position and a risk to reward of about 5 to 1, I would imagine, by the time we get down there. There are various areas that we can look to scale in should that happen, but to be honest, we need to get below before we even bother looking into potential areas to enter. Until that happens, there's nothing we can do. Longs above, again, I probably wouldn't bother taking a long for the sake of the 20 pips. It just doesn't seem overly worthwhile. Actually, to be fair, it probably might be, because you can get away with a stop loss at about 10.10. That might be well worth doing, actually, in anticipation for. Just from a risk to reward point of view, you could definitely get away with a stop loss around 110.10 should we get above 110.30. So give you that 20 pip stop loss, means that by the time we reach 115, we should be on a 1-to-1. And if we can see the breakout to the upside, like I say, we're going to easily come to 109, 111, and then obviously ultimately 111.50. So yeah, actually, yeah, I think if 110.30 was to go, then maybe time to look for potential long positions back up to that 50 level, and look to bank the profit on the way there. Shorts below 110 though, don't bother getting him at 110.05. Let the 5 pips go and get involved at 110. Pound New Zealand, we've just broken through 194. Or we had broken through 194, but we failed to close below. We're just trapped in some consolidation at the moment. So it's a similar situation as to what we were seeing back here and back here, where we're just consolidating before we see a move and a push. For the pair now, I would be looking very much around one. Where did that come to? 89. 89.4. I would be very much looking into potentials below 193.80, or yeah, probably 80. 193.80, if that goes, we should see at least a revisit of 193, and that would then give us that lower low on the 30-minute time frame. Looking into the 4 hours, we're still in the realms of making that lower low, lower high. We're just stalling a little bit with price, but that's not a problem at all. If we break back above 50, yeah, let's say 60. If we can break back above 94.60, that's probably the time to start thinking about potential long positions. Break back below, above the support that we saw here and the resistance that we've seen in this region at the moment. So that would at least give us 95.20, I would have thought. So there are potential positions when it comes to Pound New Zealand this morning. I would very much envision that this carries across. Pound Oz, the long has obviously already occurred. What do we have in the way of potential entries if we were to be able to take a long? Where is price currently trading? Around that exact level. So let's just pop that up a little bit. Clear the noise 181 maybe. Yeah, 181. We could potentially enter at 181 for the pair. That would lead to a possible run up to 82.20. 82.50 should I say. Probably actually get out at 82. So there's a good 100 pip trade there if we so wish to take it. I'm not sold on the pound this morning. Obviously we've seen CPI data this morning come out. A little bit weaker than was anticipated, but PPI was up. We've got a speech at 11:30 to be very mindful of, Governor Bailey. That's probably what the markets are waiting for, and then obviously CAD later on at 3 o'clock, but that's probably what we are waiting for this morning. We might see a test early doors of 80.80. And we'll see where we go from there, or if we get a break back below. So crosshair's gone. We can get in earlier than that, I'm sure. Not really, actually, can we? A break back below 80 would give us the short into 79.20. So we're waiting at the moment on those levels. So either 180.80 or 180, the whole number, are the potential entries for pound Oz as things stand at the moment. I do wonder whether or not we might get the opportunity to take a pound CAD position. Obviously, we saw massive pumps with the Canadian dollar over the last 2 days. You can see it in the US dollar also. Just wondering whether or not there might be the earlier remnants of being able to take a position before 3 o'clock comes. Breaks back above 50, I think, innit? If we get back above 175.50, I would probably be looking pretty comfortable to take a long. I would, however, want to cut my risk out of it pretty early, just obviously because of the fundamentals that we do have out this afternoon. It makes little sense to be involved in that position any longer than we need to be when it comes to that. So definitely probably look to take my risk out of that trade as quickly as I could do, but this is probably likely to get pulled back at some point. The fact that we've just flown through all these levels doesn't quite sit right. I would imagine that we see some form of a pullback into 74, 73, 80, somewhere around that region at some point, but we shall need to see. I think 75.50 is a good area to enter for that run back to 76 though, so at least we could be risk free before the fundamentals, and then if they don't go very well for the CAD, then like I say, we can see pushes into 77 by the end of today comfortably. If it's not, if it is positive for the CAD, then like I say, we get stopped out for break even, worst case. Maybe a little bit with slippages, but I would imagine that if the fundamentals are positive for the Canadian dollar, you'll probably see 73.50 by the end of today at some point also. So it's going to be a big day for that pair, I think. Just want to go back pound New Zealand because that is where I am looking for an entry this morning with that break around 194. Aussie dollar, I just want to have a quick look through. Someone spoke to me about it this morning. I was looking at it last night. Just want to go back. Let's do it on a white chart, you know. You're going to have to bear with me while I break it down and just have a look at the moment for potential key levels and areas, just so I know where we are, what we've got, what we are playing with. See what's going on. Okay, never mind. Daily. I want to pick this little level out here. 4 hours. I just want to start clearing these levels off because I don't like having them on my chart when I can have much cleaner lines through here. I don't need to put one there. I'm just going to put one there though. Let's just run an area through the lows of here, also taking into account these lows, those previous lows through there. Just need to understand where this liquidity is. Back up to there. So we've got that little 20 pip pocket there. Looking into the lower time frames, obviously yesterday we've seen the sell-off back down to the downside. We're establishing support around an area where we would expect to see support. Previous. So a drive back to the upside doesn't seem too out of the question. Probably a push into 77.50. Breaks back below 77, one probably going to lead into a push into somewhere around 76.50 though. So it really just comes down to if you're in a position or not. If you're not in a position, then yeah, like I say, there's definitely the potential to be able to take the long back up. Is probably only going to come somewhere in and around 77.50 though, at best case, unless we see some strength come into the Australian dollar. I'm just giving it that chart. Unless we see some strength come into the Australian dollar as a whole. Again, they did have some positive retail sales overnight, so there's I'm not totally averse to that potentially happening. And obviously the dollar is a bit of a whipping boy at the moment, so that could potentially also lead into something. So there's definitely, if we close like this, there's definitely scope to take it with a potential stop loss around about 76.90 would be pretty smart. Give yourself a 20 pip window or 25 pips probably by the end time this closes. You can look for that run up to 50. That gives you a 1.5, 2 to 1. And then obviously the anticipation for that breakout to the upside is definitely there. It makes sense. I would have preferred to see a push a little bit further down into 76.80 before looking for potential longs back up, but that isn't going to happen by the looks of things. So yeah, there's certainly scope, certainly potential for it. I mean, we can go back through, see the support that we've had here previously has at least found us to 77.50, 77.50, 77.50, 77.50. So at least we would probably likely see that as a bare minimum. Then, like I say, if you break through, you know that if you were to get through the 80 level, you're back inside of this little range and period of consolidation, so you're probably back to 170, back to 0.76. So you'd very quickly make back any loss if you did take a 25 pip hit on the pair there. So yeah, there's definitely potential in it. Last one I want to look at is dollar CAD. Around 126, this 125.90 region. Obviously, we've seen a little bit of a buy. Buyers involved in the market this morning. There's every chance that that continues, that buying pressure. But should we break back below 25.80, naturally it would make sense to turn our attention to short positions. Somewhere around 25.20, so that 80 to 20 position would probably be quite a likely outcome that we can look for at the moment. Rejection away, breaks back above 126 would almost certainly lead into longs back to 127. What have I not covered that I wanted to cover? Euro Oz. And solid. We'll have a quick look at gold while we're here, because why not? I don't know who my gold chart's through. There we go. See how long I haven't looked or traded gold for. So we'll have a look at that again in a second. Let me just go through Euro Oz. Euro weakening off. Look at that, from 156. Test that we were talking about last week, that need to come to 156, come retested and rejected. I'm gutted I've missed that. Why have I not had an alert go off? Where did that go to? Not 156. Jeez, 3 pips. I've got an alert set at 156, and that's missed it by 3 pips. Right, that should have triggered it. Why did that not trigger my alert? Maybe my alert set at 56.10. Damn. Look at that. Well, Euro Oz below 155.50, definitely an option. I would probably look to take a position on Euro Oz below 155.50. If we finish with this engulfing, like that's nice. Euro Swiss doesn't look so good though, does it? What's Euro Dollar saying? Rejecting away from 120 like we said. Alright, maybe we need to play a little bit more cautious. Longs are above 156 100%. Maybe I move the short focus now. If you're not already in it from 156, then we'll move our focus to 155.20. I know we're giving up 40 pips on the way down, but we can't risk getting caught in a potential jump when Euro Swiss is still messing about. Euro Oz is messing about. Obviously, Aussie dollar we saw was potentially looking like it might go back to the upside, but we will need to keep an eye and see that. What have we got going on? Gold. Oh, look at that 4 hour. That looks absolutely. I mean, we don't need this level, so let's pull this back and we'll try and use this to our advantage. You see with gold, like, it respects its level so well. Rejections through is going to lead back to that. If we don't reject, that's filth. I don't know that there's an earlier entry though. could potentially look to get involved. I probably wouldn't want to get involved until 75 is taken out. 75 down to 65, 65 down to 40 if that was to happen. Or longs above 1790 back up. So where do we have that level? 1815. There's potentials. Certainly wouldn't rule it out. That 4 hour does look lovely for the short, but also if you were going to reject from anywhere, it would be here where we see that previous area of breakout and that support. Push back above 1790 would give you that long entry. I think the dollar's at a pivotal time. Like, it needs to make a decision, and it needs to kind of do it a little bit lively as well, to be fair. So we've got quite a lot of potential around. We just need to see something, kind of grab it in and say, nah, this is where we're going. We're in a little bit of no man's land, really and truly at the moment. So we just need to be mindful. But pound New Zealand still looks pretty good as well. So there's some potentials around. If the US dollar does strengthen up, then those are big. Breaks back above 120.20, leads into euro dollar longs. Breaks back below 19.90, breaks into euro dollar shorts. Euro Swiss above or below. They both have potential. We're going to get rid of that because I don't care. Strictly below 110. Above 130 though would potentially lead into those longs. Pound New Zealand short definitely has potential from 194, if not from 193.80. Gold above or below 75 or above 90. I'm not interested in anything else. Dollar CAD all hinges around 126. Longs above 126. Shorts below 25.80. Aussie dollar, you could be long from here if you wanted to be, but you can only really target 77.50, so very short term position. Breaks back below 76.80, lead into 76. Longs above 75, 77.50. Massive for the pair, will definitely lead into 108 and 108.20, probably a retest of previous highs, potentially even as high as 78.50. So definitely potential on that to keep an eye on. Euro Oz below the 50 level I quite like, but do need to be mindful. Probably going to have to wait out until 20 is taken out, just to be sure that we're not going to get caught in a higher low and see a push almost immediately back to 156, because that will suck. Swiss yen potentially below 1770, or above 118.10 would lead into positions there. I imagine that pound Oz looks like we could have a sell-off. Pound Oz not interested until 1880, until 80 goes, or 80.80. And pound CAD, we shall see if we can get that long back above or the rejection away. Either way, I'd like to be risk-free by lunchtime, just so that we're not caught out by the fundamentals. And we can roll out little dice and see where we go from there. Be careful at 3 o'clock. Obviously, CAD interest rate, and I don't think the rate decisions until a little bit later. Actually, probably at the statement, should I say? The press conference usually around about 4 o'clock, so about an hour afterwards. So see where we go from there. But there's plenty to look at, plenty to get our teeth into this morning and today. So, like I say, have a decent day, whatever you're up to, and I will catch up with people a little bit later.